Hello, I'm Dennis K. McKay. I welcome you to this episode of the video series I call SurveyorThink. The purpose of this episode is to discuss the use of virtual reality to harvest survey measurements out of scanned survey images into measurement databases. So here we are. Let's imagine in a virtual reality, this is what it would look like if you had your virtual reality helmet on. You could probably ask to have a different scene, like Martian landscape or Disneyland or some artist's conception. But even though that might just slightly leave the tedium of your day, we still have work to do. And the work is that in this imaginary scenario that you have access to the digital images that have been scanned of all the survey plats in a county, let's say. They've been scanned, and of course they would, during the scanning process, and they would have used information from the plat, such as the surveyor name, the date of the survey, perhaps the scale, perhaps some indication of where it is, like a neighborhood or a city or township and range. And those things are all in a database that has entry for each image, including where the file is. And you have that information, let's say, on a hard drive, or access through the internet. But if I were to set up the environment, and there are many ways of doing that, and we will see how this could happen. But my way is that you would have visual representations of these images on one side of your virtual reality world. It could appear as like hanging maps that you could paw through like this. Or it could be like a huge Rolodex that you could just roll through plats looking for the one that you need to have. It could be a vertical Rolodex that you could just walk through like that, or maybe even just hanging maps, where you could almost be just walking right into these maps and you would just move through them with hand gestures. But once you find the map you want, not the map, but the plat, the survey plat, the image, you would use hand gestures to select it and move it out, and then now it's time to incorporate that and integrate the information that's in there onto the published data. And of course, if you just let go of it, it doesn't drop to the floor. You could just maybe shove it aside. There's lots of ways to interact with these things. But the way I would design a visual world is that I would have like a virtual wall that is a continuous map of the country, let's say, or even the globe. You could just use hand gestures to zoom in and navigate to the place where this plat is. But once you get that published data, let's say the published parcel data, that you're just really looking at a database in map form. But once you have zoomed into that database to a workable scale, you can then hold this plat up and you would see the monuments, or let's say the survey points that are on the scanned image, which are just collections of pixels. But you would also see those representations of those same points in the enterprise, the county's database, what have you, the actual data infrastructure, the published official. And so you could just find where you have a monument, a survey corner on your plat image, and you could just pinch it like you have a push pin, and maybe find another one, and then you could just take this push pin and just push it against where that point is represented on the major map. And here, there's your translation and rotation. But then from there, you have a line on the public map that is an entry in a database. And you have a raster line overlaying it practically. And so a computer can start matching up these raster lines and creating vectors out of them and matching up what lines, parcel lines are on the plat with the parcel lines that already exist in the official map. And one of the things that this gives you is that you don't have to interact with it very much. They'll just snap together, but then what is important is that it knows what the distance of that vector is held officially, but then when it sees those, say, survey distances on the plat, then it starts to do optical character recognition to change this symbols of raster into actual database values. One of the things I wanted to say about virtual reality is that you could do this work anywhere. You could be in an office, and you could also be at home. You could be under an awning of your Airstream, parked in the woods, and you might just take a couple or 3 hours each day to work these plats, kind of roam and work wherever you want, be in beautiful settings. There's huge workforces that are traveling, nomadic, and so people who can be trained, you know, like surveyors, it would be a very great opportunity to allow people who have surveying knowledge to work anywhere. And you could be, like, say, you could be in a wheelchair and do this work in a virtual reality environment. So I'm just open to the possibilities, and I am excited about what could happen, because it does resolve a huge lack of information, data information that could be very useful. Yeah. And it doesn't have to all be done at once. There could be a partial data coverage that a county has that is just fine for what they're doing. But there may be an interest in a particular area where the data that they have just doesn't really meet their needs in terms of trustability and, you know, horizontal positioning. It may be that area needs to be sharpened up, and it can be done with putting a lot of survey plats in there. And so having a system with virtual reality to streamline the work would be very, very helpful, because it can be very, very time-consuming, labor-intensive, error-prone to do it the way it's being done right now, the way I have done it for over 30 years. And I just think this whole technology could turn surveying into a real lucrative and useful occupation for people in ways that they haven't experienced before. So I appreciate your time. I'm Dennis K. McKay, and this survey series of videos I call SurveyorThink.